Good day, everyone. My name is Lourdes Ramirez Wright, and I typically speak of CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, as I was a sufferer of those symptoms for a long time. Not pleasant, but very real. And I thought today I would speak about family dynamics. I think it is one of those subjects that most people want to bury because of the bad memories, bad relationships, and bad things that stemmed out of a bad childhood. And in a way that is understandable. At the same time, when we don't speak about things, then we're not communicating important subjects, and things tend to become more of a taboo than a source of information or a way to fix things. So I am a true believer. I really believe in communication and in a peaceful resolution. If you have followed my work, you will know that I am anti-violence in any way, shape, or form, and that includes against your own children. So when parents choose to start a family, they take on really the most important job in the universe, because now those parents are going to be raising other human beings, and you have to raise them to succeed, and you have to give them a loving, safe environment. So a lot of times what happens is things go wrong, or those parents who made the choice have trauma themselves and they pass it on to their offspring. And that is what is known in the psychological world as intergenerational abuse or intergenerational dysfunction. And I did write a book about it, and my book is called Cone of Silence. I would love for you to read it if you get the chance. And I explain how things happen from one generation to another. It is a very strange phenomenon, but it happens more often than you might think. And it is absolutely important that children, now grown up like me, understand that the ones who made the commitment are really the parents. The parents took on the challenge, the responsibility, the commitment to have children, and therefore those children now are their responsibility. I personally was not gifted with having children of my own. However, I married someone who has children, and he tells me, you don't just turn it on and off. You don't go, they turned 21 or 18, therefore, whoops, I'm not their father anymore. It doesn't work that way. You don't turn it on and off. You do not get to do that as a parent. Those children really are your children until the end of times, and that is the truth. What happens is, in dysfunctional or abusive homes, things take a different turn, and you will have parents who are very manipulative and very abusive. Part of the abuse is grooming, and part of that grooming is to have those children believe now that because those parents sent the children to school, fed them, and gave them the very basic and then some, at some point those parents are entitled to get back everything they put in. And this is part of the grooming period. It is a way for those parents to get back everything they put in from those children who are now grown up. And what ends up happening is a lot of times the abusers or the parents or the grown-ups, they actually become even more abusive as they age. But they also still expect that loyalty and that follow that they're supposed to get from their children according to them, because they invested so much in those children, or so they think, right? So now what happens is they might become abusive, manipulative, because those children are now grown up. They cannot physically manhandle, obviously, those people, because those grown-up children will not allow it. But what happens is they find new ways to keep those groomed, well-groomed children under control. And one of them is that guilt trip. I put in, I gave up, I sacrificed, I did that, I didn't do this, and I refrained from doing that, all because of you kids. And so that is a part of the grooming. It's a very unhealthy way of seeing the world, but that is what happens in some unhealthy and dysfunctional homes. And so some of these kids remain in that system, and they have roles almost assigned to them. They become little scapegoats. And I am not talking about now children. I'm speaking about those little children that were abused and manhandled and mistreated and neglected, who are now parents themselves. So these grown children now neglect their very own marriages and homes in order to tend to the abusers who are now elderly or much older, but continue the manipulation. This is a very unhealthy way to see the world, and it is passed on. This goes from generation to generation to generation. Things really do not change. The things that do change might be the tactics, the delivery, but pretty much the idea, the whacked up ideas are still pretty much the same. And this is one subject that I believe we have to discuss in the open a little bit more. Does that mean that those people stand no chance? Not at all. But what it does mean is that if things are going to turn out well for those people who are now elderly or much older, as well as the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, then somebody has to own up to the mistakes and the realities. When this is not a possibility, then there is no back and forth communication, because you really are talking to a wall, aren't you? You know, in order for you to fix things, you have to have parties willing to fix things. When this doesn't happen, that's when things come to an impasse and things just die away. That is exactly what happens. In these dysfunctional families, you're going to have many personalities. One in particular stands out to me because this might be the sibling or the family member or somebody very close to that circle who uses devaluing behaviors. And pretty much anything good that happens to you or anytime you shine, this person will attempt to knock you down. And there will come a point when you're going to reach a certain age and you're going to say to yourself, how much is all of this costing me and my loved ones, my very own family now? How much is all of this costing me? How much time, energy, labor, thought, sweat beads am I putting in to fix something or understand something that is not fixable? And I am sacrificing and giving up time with my very own family to try to understand and fix this over here, which does not want to be fixed. At some point, you ask yourself that. Typically, you ask yourself that when you are much older. Typically, it happens in your 50s, but sometimes it happens in your 40s. And believe it or not, sometimes it happens in your 60s and even 70s. And this is a very sad realization for many, that all of those hours of energy and hard work that they spent trying to fix the unfixable and the dysfunctional, they could have spent with loved ones, cultivating and nurturing their own home. But they failed to do that, chasing after a fantasy. So whenever it comes to family dynamics, I think that we need to be more sincere with ourselves, and we need to recognize when something is fixable and when something is not. And we all have regrets. All of us. I know I do, you do, everyone has regrets. But make sure that those regrets are faced with reality within a reasonable time before it becomes too late for you and your loved ones. I am going to continue this conversation on my next video because I think it is a worthy subject to discuss. So I hope you join me on the next one. You can find my books on Amazon. You can also find me on Instagram. And I have a great page called Fitness for CPTSD on Facebook. And you're going to see on the cover a brunette. This is back when my hair was black. You're going to see me running on that cover page. That is yours truly. So I hope you check it out. I do dispense a lot of information that is pertinent to complex PTSD and the things that I have to do to shake those symptoms. And I have a lot of subjects that I want to discuss, but not in one video because they do become too long. I hope you join me for the next one. Have a great rest of the week, and remember, the world is a better place because you are in it.